Hi to everybody! Today I would like to talk about one of the international grapes varieties that is highly valued in Lombardy region. It's Pinot Noir or Pinot Nero, which is considered one of the most noble among red grapes in the world. But where it is cultivated? The cultivation of Pinot Nero around the world is widespread from the famous French hills of Burgundy and Champagne to the distant lands of New Zealand, passing through Oregon and California in the United States, coming back to Europe, Germany, and of course Italy, where it reaches the best examples in the regions such as South Tyrol, Trentino, and Lombardy, the region I would like to talk about. But let's talk a bit about the history of this grape. Pinot Noir is one of the oldest grapes of which there is a historical data. In France, we have evidence of Pinot Noir dating back to the Roman Empire. To be more precise, dating back to the 1st century after Christ, when Romans actually brought this grape to France. But where did the spread of Pinot Nero in our Lombardy came from? The manual says that the spread in the Oltrepo Pavese began in the mid of 19th century thanks to the work of a nobleman, Conte Vistarini, who began to plant the first hectares and to experiment with the wine practices he had known in France. It was in this way that the first classic method sparkling wine took shape, with which he also became very notorious, very famous in such cities as London and Paris. His wines were highly appreciated here. But let's talk about the peculiarities of such a grape as Pinot Nero. It is characterized by small benches and small berries. It is very delicate grape with a thin skin, which is in the shape of a question mark. And since the bunches are very narrow, malt finds its natural habitat in the moisture that is created between the grapes. This makes this grape very susceptible to disease. It is a bizarre grape. It is certainly among one of the most complex to growth because it ripens early. It's very sensitive to terroir. It's not a grape that's suitable for a warm climate because since it ripens early, it can ripen very quickly and cannot fully develop its aromas and cannot give to our wine all the aromas. So the skin does not release them, and also there is the risk that it can lose its acidity. And acidity is very important for our Pinot Noir grape. It prefers limestone soils, while clay, fresh and human soils are less suitable for Pinot Nero. In Lombardy, the winemaking styles of Pinot Nero can be summarized in two categories: red wines and sparkling wines. In a production of red wines, the Pinot Nero can be vinified in a single variety, and it can also be, even rarely, but it can also be mixed with other grapes, with other red grapes, especially here in Lombardy. The Pinot Noir is produced and also, of course, fermented and matured in barrels, but the choice of the barrels prefer not excessive roasting degrees. The color of this grape usually is not intense, but is rather transparent. The nose is characterized by fruity shades like strawberry, raspberry, blackberry, cherry, and also floral shades like roses and violet when the Pinot Noir is young. When it becomes ages, the aromas became more finer and gaining more complex notes, like for example leather, undergrowth, tobacco and spices. On the palate, it's a very, very elegant wine. The tannins are not powerful, but the acidity are always very vivid and rich. In a sparkling wine, Pinot Noir is generally used in a production of the classic method, to which this grape confers structure, aromatic complexity, body, and remarkable longevity. And it can be also combined, of course, with other grapes, not only in Lombardy, but in other countries. Let's see where Pinot Noir comes from in Lombardy. There are two DOCG, that includes Pinot Nero, and there are also some DOC. For example, Franciacorta DOCG and Oltrepò Pavese Classic Method DOCG, or Oltrepò Pavese Classic Method DOCG Pinot Nero and Oltrepò Pavese Classic Method Pinot Nero Rosé. The first versions can contain at least 70% of Pinot Nero, and the second ones, the Pinot Nero Rosé version, has to contain 85% of Pinot Nero. The last one, marked by a very dedicated commercial name named Croisé, which arises from the union of two terms. Cru means selection and Rosé. In Franciacorta, Pinot Nero is popular in the sparkling version and mainly used for millesimati, millesime, and riserva of Franciacorta DOCG, and also Blanc de Noir, to which it offers structure and longevity. It is also an essential component, an essential grape for the cuvée of Franciacorta Rosé, in which it must represent at least 35%. In Franciacorta is the second widespread grape, Pinot Nero, which occupies about 15% of the total area. Let's talk about also the DOC of Oltrepò Pavese. It's Pinot Noir, Pinot Nero of the Oltrepò Pavese DOC. It's a red wine which has to contain at least 95% of Pinot Nero. It can also be present at Sangue di Giuda of the Oltrepò Pavese DOC. Sangue di Giuda, translated in English, a blood of Judas, which has to contain up to 45% of Pinot Nero. Also Casteggio DOC, up to 35% of Pinot Nero, and Curte Franca DOC from the Franciacorta area that might contain up to 50% of Pinot Nero, but vinified in white. To deepen this theme, this topic, I would invite you to consult our Vini Plus Guide 2020 to learn more about Lombardy, about its wines, about the wines obtained from Pinot Nero grape. Thank you.